I call this meeting to order of the City Commission of Rio Grande City. It is Wednesday, November the 9th, 2022. It is 6:14 p.m. and we are in Commission Chambers, City Hall, 5332 East US Highway 83, Suite A in Rio Grande City, Texas. At this time, we'll have the invocation by Commissioner Olivares, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner De Leon.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you very much for allowing us to gather here this evening. And we ask you to bless every mind and heart that fills the presence of this room. We ask for a special guidance as we make decisions today that affect our city. And we ask for a special blessing over our city employees and all of our citizens, especially those that may be in despair, that may be sick, or maybe have lost hope. Place in their minds and in their hearts the knowledge that you are in control, and through thee, everything is possible. Amen. We ask these things in your holy name.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Commissioner Olivares, Commissioner De Leon. Next item is item 1B, roll call and finding of quorum.
Okay. Mayor Villarreal?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez?
Here.
Commissioner De Leon?
Here.
Commissioner Olivares?
Here.
Commissioner Escobedo?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is item 1C, public forum. And we have Smart City Concept presentation.
Any audio?
Would you like us to speak on our end? Do you check audio?
No, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Good.
We're good now.
So we're not sure what to do next. Are we waiting on another?
Tell us about the Smart City Concept. It's your floor. You have the floor now.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure what the next step was. So what I'd like to do as we get started, the name of our company is P2B Heuristics Page Park. We had a very brief conversation with the mayor, and we want to thank you for inviting us to your meeting. Our team, we're going to introduce just real briefly. I do have a question. What is our time amount allocated for our presentation?
You have 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. Okay, so we'll get started, but just with a quick introduction, I'll introduce everybody. To my right is Eric Nagy. He's part of our P3 mobility group and also worked with our business development team. We have Lionel Pasamonte, and he's our chief strategy officer, but also directs our drone operations. And we'll share just a little tidbit of that. We have Lucila Garcia. She's part of our team. She's our chief communications officer. We have Roderick Johnson. He's our project manager and would be involved in project elements as we discuss further, perhaps have another opportunity to communicate. And so that's our team. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. Can I have access to screen sharing, please? Okay. Okay, so let me go ahead and get set up. And share my screen. Right now, I'm not able to share my screen. It says host is disabled, participant screen sharing.
Angela, since you have the presentation, would you be able to put it up on your side?
Let me see. Well, I provided the board with the copies of the PowerPoint.
But can we
Yes.
see it up here? That's,
Eddie,
Great.
It's on there. So, I don't know who's running the Zoom instance, but you can roll over my name and you make me a co-host. So if you look at participants, just click participants. There you go. And just click participants and then you'll see my name and then you can make me a co-host and I can share my screen.
there you go.
So you can click that OK and then click on participants and there'll be a drawer that comes out.
It was done.
I seem to try it now. It's the most already.
Okay, it was done already. Can you try it again? John, can you try it again?
Yeah, let me see. Now I can. Great. So let me just go ahead and, let me go ahead and share that. Be just 1 second. Yeah, for some reason, let me just reset this. For some reason, it's not letting me share my deck. Give me 1 second. Here we go. I got it. All right, here it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So, discúlpame, por favor. Apologize. For some reason, it still says host disabled, participant screen sharing, so for some reason that's still on there. Yeah, I can't close that out. It's not letting me. Just go
we are
back.
able to see the presentation here. Is there?
Okay, that little comp on Zoom, I'm not able to close it out on, for some reason. It's just staying there. So I'll just go ahead and get started. And you have copies of these slides. So our company focuses on smart city development, and our efforts are based around 3 key components. Component number 1 is people. Component number 2 is technology. And component number 3 is sustainability, but with an emphasis on economic sustainability. Our first element or first layer is dealing with the facts. Here's the facts. Today and tomorrow, people live in cities, people walk on streets, people buy cars, people drive cars, people park cars, people ride bikes, people drive delivery trucks, and the last one is what? People design cities. So as a city and as the leadership of the city, you are looking at concepts. First concept has to do with what's considered a platinum designation today is smart city status. The smart city status is a framework. It addresses 4 key dimensions of that framework. Governance, this is the meeting we're having right now. It's about governance. Communication, It's not just communication of what the governance accomplishes, but it's also communication back and listening to the community and the demands of the community. Environment, we're not talking just about environmental issues, we're talking about the overall landscape and progressive nature of how the city is growing and the environment that is being created around that. And then the last is public services, transportation, health, education. All of this leads to a unique model. A unique model from a smart city standpoint encourages investment, encourages economic development. It creates new, unique ways for the city to generate revenues. So our next slide identifies what the disruption is. Basically, traffic, density, livability are all disruptive. That's what's being disruptive is our lives. If we live in a city and we want to see the city improve, we're confronted directly with these density issues. So we've developed two layers to what we help cities with. The first layer has to do with planning. Now, you have a top-notch planning team. Your planning primarily is dealing with the growth of the city. It's dealing with the plans, maybe a 10-year plan, 20-year plan. But from there, you have legacy systems, maybe legacy planning systems, legacy economic systems, financial systems. Well, all these are different layers of a cake. And as you cut through the cake, you discover that there's something maybe impeding the growth, something that doesn't realize for the vision that you have as city leaders. So we've developed a technology, P2P heuristics, that deals with the three primary components of something that's called a digital twin. And I'll share a little bit of that, but I don't want to focus on that right now. But I wanted to, and we wanted to emphasize that this planning model is built around smart city development, okay? And smart city development all of a sudden changes some realities. We're based out of Reno, Nevada. Reno, Nevada has grown exponentially, but one way it has grown is economic development. Company after company is coming here because of the right infrastructure, the right utility, the right access to city decision-making. So Panasonic has built one of their largest facilities in the world here in Reno area. Tesla has one of its largest lithium battery facilities in this area. But where it really is stellar, I'm sorry.
Okay, I found this on the web for leaders, so we developed the technology of P. Step heuristics that deals with the primary components, something that's called a digital twin, you know, and I'll share a little bit of that. But I don't want to focus on that right now.
I'm sorry, that was Siri. For some reason, she's decided to be my friend today.
She wants to be part of the meeting.
So exactly. She's going to tell me all kinds of things I need to do. When are you going to wash your car? So this model, sorry, you were saying? Oh, no. So this model is involved in the core of technology utilization. Was there a question?
Hey, John, so help us understand, how would this help a border community with 16,000 people? How would it impact us, or how would we even envision this here? Again, 16,000 people, we're a growing community, it's along the border, have good relationships with Mexico, international trade. How is that going to apply to us here? I know you're talking about Reno, but let's focus more on here. Rio Grande City, 16,000 people, border community, binational, bilingual, bicultural. How would this help us grow and expand and make sure that we use data and technology to meet our needs and expand and become more efficient and effective?
Absolutely, and thank you. We'll just go right to this slide. You're dealing in a multimodal environment. It's not just passenger cars, it's transportation and logistics. So based on the direction that logistics operations are developing, Rio Grande is at an epicenter. You're at an epicenter because of the relationship to Mexico and the relationship to the international bridge. So even now, as we speak, you have density issues. What's happened in the multimodal world is if I can get away with doing something that doesn't cost me anything, I can then infringe upon not only the city and the city's infrastructure, we're talking streets, we're talking parking places, we're talking all the infrastructure that you're impacted by. You have major routes of commercial routes. And so we did a quick synopsis of the realities. So the realities is you have a 22,000 population, but that's not true as it relates to your transport that's going through the city, around the city, and as it relates also to your sister city in Mexico. And what does that do? Well, it impacts your overall quality of life, but more importantly, as a small border town, you're dealing with growth issues that could work in your favor. One of the growth issues that could work in your favor is to attach a unique relationship to transport and its relationship to your city infrastructure. Have you ever seen where they drop a trailer on a city street? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen maybe a container trailer? Even in the most benevolent way, you're impacted by the commercialization around you. And so one of the ways that we can help is create that into an economic stream, but also achieve further planning as your economic development team works to recruit and bring in companies and businesses to your area. And the area has enough to accommodate that. And that's in addition to the livability of the people who live there. You are sitting at, and this is why I brought up Reno, is because Reno is only a half hour from the California border. So if California was a country and Nevada was a country, this is a border town. We're living in, and they even have a casino here called Border Town. So you're in a very approximated relationship to multiple potential economic inflows without having to go down a route of taxation, but actually user fees. And I know we're running out of time, but we had a very specific report to share with you from McKinsey Group, one of the top financial modeling groups in the country, as it relates to dollars that cities are leaving on the table and not participating in because of not being able to utilize their very valuable infrastructure, streets, sidewalks, parking, and as we expand into more EV vehicles, the city, by taking the lead and becoming a thought leader, as a smart city status would give you, it's a game changer. It puts you in a model of thought leadership, and that resonates throughout the community. Right now in the United States, I think the closest smart city status to you is Savannah, Georgia. But in all of Texas, becoming a smart city correlates well to the world economics. And then your sister city across the border in Mexico could also realize a lot of advantages by the continuing partnership that you have.
10 minutes. Any questions, commissioners? So in reference to this, last time we spoke, you mentioned that you were bearing gifts. So tell us about, just finish up here, bearing gifts in reference to this whole concept of even partly participating in this as the future, consider this as a possibility.
So our planning tools thank you for the question. Our planning tools are the tip of the spear as we work with our municipal partners. But once we get done with the heuristic planning model, and this is modeling like, the best way I can describe it is modeling like a computer game. We re-envision the city as a physical to a digital manipulation of the city. Okay, mirrored images. And those mirrored images then allow us to run simulations. What does the simulation look like? Well, it looks like information about what's going on today and what will it look like in the future based on data that we've already acquired or future prognosticated data. So this particular slide deals with the gifts we come to bear. So once recommendations are made through the heuristic process, we have established what's called a public-private partnership, a P3 mobility, where, okay, that's great. We know what we need to do. Well, here's the recommendations of what's going to take place. And we fund as a partner in this particular P3 model, public-private partnership model, we fund the implementation of the infrastructure. So let's say there needs to be some form of multimodal data capture and then multimodal usage fees. We would help institute the software and the hardware and then correlate that into your either existing back office, city back office elements, or help establish what those back office elements should represent. So we come bearing gifts. In this particular case, we're willing to finance the recommendation off of the heuristic model, off of the city digital twin model, off of the planning tools that we utilize.
Thank you, Mr. Corrella. Any questions, commissioners?
No.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And with that, this concludes this presentation. Once more, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next item on the agenda is 1D departmental reports. Do we have anyone, Chief?
Yes, ask Ms. Bass and Hector to give us a quick update, Mayor, on the streets that have been worked on and what's up next. So you guys have an idea where.
Good evening, Mr. Barrera, Ms. Beas.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
Victor and I are here, we've been working together along with Fernando Guerra, and of course, CAP Associates, they're the engineering for the paving project, of the bond project. You've seen the work done on Garcia Street. We have work on Britton, Encino, and Robles. The delay has been on some sections of Garcia. First, there was a line treatment that had to be done, an unknown asbestos water line that had to be removed, and then an old sewer line. And these are told that we had no plans and had no knowledge that they were under there. So that kind of delayed the process. It also delayed with some of the concrete that was coming from the old Firestone, the old Ramirez. It was not to a certain width where you could kind of dial in the concrete next to it. So with all these changes, it's a process. It's called a request for information, an RFI. So contractor asks for direction from the engineer goes back, everything is documented. We do have Christina with Happy Associates, she's the engineer on the project. Fernando and Hector go daily, constantly going by there. Britton, you've all seen it, it's ready basically to start the asphalt. They have it scheduled for this weekend. If it doesn't rain, if there's a certain temperature, they'll lay the asphalt. Too cold and they can't lay it, it'll crack, it won't lay down properly. The Encino and Robles has also been going along. There is a section, like a low water spot, and they have treated it with cement. They don't want to pave it, and then within a couple of months, you've got cracks on the paving. They're conscientious of making sure that their warranty will last a year, so they've asked direction also for the engineer. They're working on what to do to stabilize. It's about 50 feet.
It's about 50 feet by 18, I believe.
15 or 50?
50.
50?
Yeah.
50 feet.
So they have that. Most of their projects have been laid out with the traffic control. You've seen all the staking out there and some signs. They do have Columbus to be next. They understand, they've seen the traffic that's on Eisenhower. Will probably have to be split between one and the other so that there's access. The brisas, Christina just finished telling me that they have the plans ready for the water line. Not a relocation, but it's actually a new line to replace the one that's behind the homes, which is causing problems. So it's coming along, they are within schedule. I don't know if maybe you wanted to add anything.
No, I mean, there has been some things, just getting some additional testing. And like she mentioned on the lip, there is that low spot. I mean, it's really a drainage issue. Everything around it comes there. So Robert is just going to be out there tomorrow with a pump truck just to make sure that we do the right thing so it doesn't fail.
And they're pretty much on schedule, including the brisas?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hector, I don't know if you want to add something.
Right now, they're almost finished with Garcia on the concrete. Today, they were pouring the belly gutters. So they're on the cleanup, and they have to put the decker rod on those joints with the sealer. So they're almost ready to finish Garcia Street with the concrete.
And these are on the sections, valley gutters that tie the concrete paving to the Highway 83. And so TxDOT they have to look at the plans, they review everything, make sure that they're working with it properly. And also the sidewalk that they had to remove along the highway. So I know that that's what they have scheduled for this week that's ending.
They're getting ready for Britain and a little part of Garcia on.
And Britain is asphalt, right?
Asphalt.
And if the weather conditions are good?
Yeah, permitting weather.
Is it for that day when they're laying it? Or like, how about if it's hot one day and cold the next? Will that affect it? Or is it only like for that particular day when they lay the asphalt?
Okay. It's 15 dropping, we won't let them do it. But I think they're scheduling for Friday.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be in the 80s, but then it's supposed to be in the 50s on Saturday and Sunday.
Highest 57.
Yeah.
It's
been seen on Global, they have scheduled for Saturday. And so if they do it early, they will delay it as long as it's hot and before the cold.
Well, if we believe the weather people, it's not going to be hot. But you never know.
Who knows?
They've been wrong before.
Many times.
That's on the bond project, the TDA paving project. I know they've been out there with Sames Engineering. The Sames has 30% of the plans already designed. They looked at Plainview. If you all been by Plainview, it's a nasty street, full of potholes, patches, some low spots. And Hector and Fernando out there making sure that that drainage would not pond, therefore creating, potholes real soon, making sure what type of gutter, curb and gutter was going to be laid down. It's almost 2,000 feet.
Yes.
Anything in that one?
We were with the same engineering yesterday, so we had some issues with some of the valley gutters also, so we got that address for the engineering company.
And that should be coming up, once this got cleared from yesterday, it should be wrapping up on those plans. Our goal is to hopefully have a contractor on board by the end of February. We need to meet a threshold in order to make us eligible to apply for the next round of TDA funds. They're $350,000 hopefully. So that's coming up on the paving projects. We are working consistently with Chief, do you want me to give a report on all the bond projects?
No, they're just on the street.
Okay.
Yes.
And for those streets, we're there daily with the company, me and Fernando.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera, Ms. Beas.
Thank you.
The director has anything to report to the commission?
Anyone else who would like to report to the commission the greatest and latest things you've been doing, which is plenty of All right, thank you. Next item is 2 consent agenda, item A, B, and C. Entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve items 2A, B, and C.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 2A, B, and C by Commissioner Ramirez, second by Commissioner Olivares. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Next item is 3 resolutions. Letter A, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve Resolution 2022-20, authorizing the Chief of Police and Deputy City Manager to apply for and accept a grant from the Office of the Governor, Public Safety Office, Criminal Justice Division, Bullet Resistant Shield Grant Program for FY 2023.
Reggie. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. The police department is applying for 17 bullet resistant shields. It's a grant that is offered. So we're applying for $117,033.54. We do need a resolution as part of the grant process. It is not guaranteed, but if we could get at least some of these funds to be able to purchase and better equip our officers.
Entertain a motion at this time.
I second.
Okay, have a motion to approve item 3A by Commissioner Olivares, second by Commissioner Escobedo. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Next item is 3B, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve Resolution 2022-21, authorizing the Finance Director to open a bank account with Lone Star National Bank dedicated to the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, CDV 210426.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This is basically to open up a bank account. It's already been passed in the past, but we didn't do it as a resolution. The bank requires a resolution for us to open a new bank account. So.
Okay.
And this is to keep the money.
So, Mayor, approve item 3A, 3B.
Have a motion.
Legal has one recommendation for the motion, just to add something to it. I think it's our understanding that there's a request for proposal that was issued on November 2nd that's currently pending for a financial institution,
right, yes.
I think by your department. So if we could just add to the end of what's being adopted, that it be selected on terms that are not inconsistent with the city's currently pending RFP of November 2nd, 2022 for the selection of a bank depository.
Okay, so
I
we
made my
have,
motion to reflect what the city attorney stated.
Would you like for me to read it for the record?
Yes.
All right. So the motion would be to approve Resolution 2022-21, authorizing the Finance Director to open a bank account with Lone Star National Bank dedicated to the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, CDV 21-0426, on terms that are not inconsistent with the city's pending RFP of November 2nd, 2022 for the selection of a bank depository.
okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Ramirez, as read by legal. Have a second by Commissioner De Leon. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Gunther. Next item is 3C, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2022-22, designating official city holidays for calendar year 2023. Please.
Okay, so Mayor, we have in your packets the calendar. We basically went by last year's calendar as well. The only difference is that we added Juneteenth on this one. So staff is asking for the approval of resolution 2022.
We had it off this year, right? The Juneteenth?
I'm sorry?
Yes, we did.
We had it
Yes.
off this year, yes.
Yes, sir.
We do.
Okay. We entertain a motion at this time.
So moved, Mayor.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 3C by Commissioner Olivares, second by Commissioner Escobedo. Any further discussion?
Just a question, has this calendar been, I guess, discussed and approved by the department heads or employees? Is everybody comfortable those days?
Yes, we
As far as
discussed it in one of our
Okay.
meetings, yes.
So, very good.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Next item is 4 ordinances. Letter A, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2022-11, amending City of Rio Grande City's ordinance at Chapter 8, Health and Safety, Article 2, Nuisance, by adding Section 8216, unapproved storage of the tires, declared public nuisance.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This is the second reading of the proposed new tire ordinance. Again, includes ways of storing tires for dealers and, of course, fines and ways to prevent situations, like I said before, the situations we had in the past with tires.
Any questions from Mr. Milan, or do we entertain a motion at this time?
Just a question. So this applies to businesses?
That's correct.
And even private owners of properties that, you see.
Correct.
Tires everywhere?
It specifically says how to store tires and how their responsibilities to get rid of them and not to be exposed by the elements.
Is there a certain amount of tires that is not considered a nuisance? 3 or 4 tires that you may replace in your vehicle, you want to keep this, I don't know, whatever. But
yeah, and again, bottom line is they're not supposed to be exposed to the elements, because if it rains, it'll create vector and therefore medical conditions.
And really the target is some of these tire shops that you see along 83 that might have 200, 300 tires right next to their shops. I mean, those really...
That is correct.
Things that we need to address.
Yes. And if you notice, they're exposed by the elements at times.
They're exposed, they're outside, and they're just...
And if it rains, you'll get the phone calls next week that there's mosquitoes and, smell, So.
Okay.
Okay, do we entertain a motion at this time?
I so move item 4A.
We have a motion to approve item 4A by Commissioner Escobedo, second by Commissioner Ramirez. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Next item is 4B, first reading and approval of ordinance number 2022-15, amending the 2022-2023 fiscal budget by providing a transfer from the city's general fund and PUD general fund to support a RGC employee retention payment program.
Good evening. As the ordinance mentions, this would be a budget amendment that we didn't take into account when we created our budget back in August. This would be for an employee retention payment program. It is administration suggesting that the commission take into account or to approve a one-time payment that will supplement the salaries for the employees. This would come into a $500 one-time payment for employees. The total budget amendment for this would be $104,720.46. We do have the money, in case you're wondering. Our fund balance.
We have the monies. We're good.
We're good. We have a 2.7 fund balance as of September 30th, 2021, and we're looking at probably getting another 100,000, 200,000 by the end of this fiscal year that just ended 2022, by the time the audit's done.
Excellent.
I move that we approve item 4B.
That's in the motion.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Olivares, second by Commissioner Ramirez. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you.
The commissioners are not included, right, sir?
Hey, good try, good try. Way to go.
Item 5, contracts and agreements, letter A, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve several contracts, purchases, payments for several departments not exceeding $50,000 or triggering the Texas procurement process, acknowledging that with each contract or agreement over $3,000, city staff contacted at least 2 HEBs within Stark County or was exempt from that process.
Yes, Mayor, there's an attachment in your booklet.
Yes.
If y'all have any questions, the directors are here to answer questions on these expenses.
Any questions, Commissioners?
Just one question. I noticed here the emergency water rights lease. To finish out the year, I know we discussed, Ms. Bass, in the past about purchasing or leasing additional water rights. Have we had any opportunities to buy additional water rights?
Yes, sir. I gave some information to Mr. Castillo. We have right now to possible purchase.
Okay.
27.75 acres. I have also reached out to other entities
Okay.
That have been notified by the water masters that are interested in selling. Something that we do need to also look at is, as we're trying to fund this purchase, is in 2007, the amount of 2,500 is being assessed against 1 acre of land developed for water rights to developers. And that has not changed since then, and water rights have gone up per acre feet.
Okay.
But right now, we already have one that Mr. Garcia will present information to you all later.
Okay, yeah, my next question was, is it better for us to continue to lease or to purchase more water rights?
That is, the one I presented to you is to purchase.
Okay.
Right now, it's to lease. Just a little information on the 1 acre feet of water to the river will provide 326,000 gallons for the city. We produce anywhere from 3.5 to almost 4 million gallons per day. So you can see how much acre feet we need.
Let's look into all that, Ms. Baez, as far as any others, or purchases as far as, these water rights, because that's something we're gonna have to address, and I think now would be the time to do it, if we start, of course, accessing it and have those options and present them to us.
We do have a dedicated fund from the water rights fees that are collected by the planning department. It is managed, and that's where we have the amounts available.
Is that part of the water study that Jeff Snowden is doing for us or not? Is this included in that?
He takes into account that, but that's for the rates, that's for the water that is charged to the consumer.
The consumer.
For consumption. This is water rights that enable us to draw water from the river.
Yeah, correct, but I guess my leading question was like all these co-ops that we sell water to, I mean, is that also included in that study? And do we need to adjust most rates like you mentioned earlier about new development? I mean, I think we're falling behind and we're not charging appropriate rates to be able to keep up with the demand, the growth of the city.
Mr. Snowden does take into account the rural co-ops. Right now, we do sell portions of 3 in Tante, in South, and some to Rio Water Supply. Rio Water Supply will probably be starting to lean off of the city because they are expanding their water treatment plant. But it is an area, as you've seen, that is growing. So they're going from a 1.5, they're going to be going to $3 million per day. Right now, they purchase very little from us, expanding on that. But the other 2 areas, you know, 755 is also expanding towards that area, and they will be needing to provide us with the water.
Mrs. Baez, one of the things that, as you were mentioning, that the city is growing and the demand of the water that we need, and one of the things that I had discussed with some of the directors was how we can not only address the need of our community with more water, but also how we can not spend so much water by maybe having special toilets that don't spend as much water. I think that's one of the things that we do need to tap into, and making sure that what we're building from now on is not spending the amount of, because we're growing too quickly and not being able to have enough water for our community. So we need to make sure that we move forward on making sure that we're going more into the green, creating a more green city.
And that can be done by changing your building codes or that particular code of the building codes. You don't have to adopt the whole 2015 or 2000, where are we now, 2020? Every 3 years they change, they update it, and these are international codes. And they do have a component for green. We haven't changed ours since 2006.
Well, it would be nice to start looking into that and just making sure that we're hitting in every angle.
That's a good point.
And making sure that we are able to offer our community the needs that they need, but by conserving water is so important.
As much as possible.
So you mentioned we have not updated our code since 2006, so why haven't you all or the department brought up this issue to us or recommend that we update to maybe a little bit closer to 2022?
We actually proposed to update the 2015 goals, and it was approved by PNC, but for the previous commissioners, they denied the motion back in the day.
It does put additional cost on the contractors and of course passed on to
Consumers.
I think in the long run, there's going to be a savings also on how much they're paying on their water. So I think and not only that, but we need to take care of our environment and take care of of what we're consuming.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the table, Mr. Milan, for discussion and see what we can do maybe to improve some of the things we have in place now.
We have to, and I might say, most of the new buildings that are being built are being built by the latest codes.
Okay.
In other words, we cannot get the latest, we can get more stringent codes, but not less. So as far as homes and buildings, again, they're being built by modern codes.
Excellent.
And,
Let's bring it back up definitely in the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Milan, and
Thank you, Ms. Bass.
Ms. Bass.
Thank you. So at this time, we'll have, to entertain a motion.
so move,
Number
Mayor.
5A, a motion to approve by Commissioner Ramirez, second by Commissioner Olivares. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Next item is 5B, discussion, consideration, and possible action related to the engineering proposal, evaluations and selection of an engineer for the drainage plan study project number 2020-01, funded by the 2020 CO bonds.
Yes.
Mayor and Commissioners, sometime back, almost a year ago, we did go out for qualification statements for all the bond projects. And one of those was the drainage study, plan study. The firms that submitted their statements, they were scored, and the highest score was half. You all selected half. And since then, they have been working to provide a proposal that will meet, the needs and the budget for the city to prepare a drainage plan or study. Ms. Christina from HAF Associates is here, and in your packet, you're supposed to have two packages. One is for a plan and one is for a study. The plan will go like 3 miles outside of our boundary to study how much water is coming in. We are hilly, and if all the water north will pass through the city, go to the river. That's our outfall. And the study will be a specific area that floods within the city. She'll look at that area, but I'll let her explain, the two proposals.
Hello.
Hello.
So the way Ms. Bass explained it is, pretty accurate. The original one that I submitted back in January of this year encompassed a lot more. And, we're going to look at your ETJ and all the waters coming to it, really developing a model. We'd also be looking, we'd look at your problem areas, identify solutions for all of these problem areas, and then work with you to come up with an implementation plan. And what that is really going through and seeing where your priorities lie, looking at possible funding sources and lining those up to say, okay, well, this project lines up well with maybe HMGP or with BRIC or something else, and then developing a strategy for you to fund these. Also, another part was looking at alternative sources, maybe if you wanted to look at utility fees or impact fees or something else as a way to develop, another tool in your toolbox to fund these. And lastly, we'd be looking at your drainage criteria, your policy right now, and then just making suggestions based on the findings. So that was the larger scope that was presented, and that, resulting in a plan. The second one we modified in June, and that was really in light of, the other one was over twice your budgeted amount. So the other one was a reduced study where we would look at a smaller area. And the advantages of that, because there's Half is involved with 2 studies, and it's important not to show duplication. I do have a slide presentation for an actual study that the GLO is funding in the area, and I believe, Troy Dorman from our office had come and presented on it. We've actually studied, we being half as a prime, has already studied Rio Grande City, so to a certain extent right now. So the scope of what you actually need to do is less now. HAF is also prime on the Region 15 Regional Flood Plan, and that is a plan where we're collecting all the flood needs and projects that are ongoing, and it'd be important for entities to have a project or a study, whatever their needs are, listed in there, because to qualify for state funding in the future, you need to be on the state flood plan. Just like if you want to get, money for SWIFT, or you need to be on the state water plan. This is the brand new, plan that's being put together. And so the study, the reduced amount where we'd look at one area to study, was really, the goal of that is to be able to identify a project so that you could be included in the first regional flood plan. So as the state issues out, funds in the future, you would be written in and that project would qualify. That's the difference. And I don't know if you're interested, we put together a presentation just like updating what the GLO study is doing, and so we can show you what part of your city's model. Do y'all mind?
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's...
I'll go through it pretty quickly, but it really just...
$300 and some thousand dollars.
Yeah, we understand what it's all about.
And we don't want to duplicate efforts. So what has been done, we'd identified one area, but that doesn't mean that we're only going to provide one project. It could be, as long as the areas are close within the same stream or whatever, it could be 2 or 3, depending on how close they are. Oh, no, not that one. Sorry. That's a dollar. Let me see.
I'm good. I know, that's what I'm trying to understand, because it says 242, then another 99.
Is it okay?
And the budget's only 142.
Yes.
That says that they don't need it.
So, yeah. This is the Texas General Land Office study that I'm mentioning. It's a 4-year study. We're about 1.5 years into the process. But it's funded by the GLO through the Community Development and Revitalization Department. Can you advance it? So it's put on by the group that really administers the disaster recovery monies and provides data for communities to help you build a more resilient community. That's really what this is about, just telling you where the funds are coming from. And the funds are actually coming from the 2015 and 2016 storms. Those mitigation funds is funding this study. It's modeled after the 4 study areas in the north are all areas that were impacted by Harvey. And so our study came on 6 months later, but we're really following the same kind of model. And what they're doing is really developing a model to define, identify where the problem areas are. Secondly, to develop projects, solutions to those. And then lastly, the last component, which is really unique to every study that I've heard of, is they want to help communities actually apply for funding. So they're going to identify projects, and then as the funding and the needs are identified, they would help you. If this project that they identify qualifies for GLO MIT, that application is cumbersome. It takes a month to put it together. So that they would actually have staff to do that. And then you turn it over to you because, you would be the applicant. Same thing for HMGP, if you need the BCAs calculated. They would actually, the fifth and last one is actually helping communities implement these. And because our client is the state, they really want to look at the larger projects, the more regional projects that, cross entity boundaries, right? Because water doesn't just stop at your city limits. So that's the beauty of it. And it's looking at Olive Star, Willacy, Cameron, and Hidalgo. That's the study area. So the first part was really working up the work plan, and the second phase was actually outreach, and that's where we are right now. Right now is when they're doing interviews with all the entities, marking, trying to intake any existing models that are out there, understanding where your historic floods have been, where your chronic problems, and actually sitting, we had a meeting in Starr County, just like a kickoff, I think a month ago, and Starr County commissioners asked us to come back and drove us around so that we can understand where their problem areas are. And
that study through the county, is it being funded through where?
It's part of the GLO. So they're doing outreach and interviews with everyone. So as long as they just said our problems are too many and we want to show them to you. So the team came out, and took a day and drove to the different areas. It's the same thing, Hector was at the area and drew a lot of, areas on the maps of where your problem areas lie. And I'll show you what we have collected for Rio Grande City. But the two common themes, these are really the same themes that everyone's talking about, across the four counties is, flooding, their drainage needs, the lack of funding, the lack of resources, people, the technical people, development and impervious. And the two that keep coming up, the next slide is flooding and drainage. That's across the board. Everybody has problems, right? And so, that's exactly what this study is supposed to do. It's a large area, and what you see here are HUC 8s, watersheds. This is what the USGS has defined as watersheds. And as we listed them here are kind of different degrees of detail. The lowest one being at the bottom, up to the top is pilot studies of that is what this project will do. And on the right, what you see are base level engineering. And the next few slides, I really just talk about what base level engineering is. And what that is, it's when I say a detailed study is like when you go and you measure every pipe, right? And you develop a model, right? Like your ditch is 10 feet deep, and at the top it's 50, and at the bottom it's 10, and you draw it up and you develop a model. That's a really detailed model. That's what you really want to base your flood maps on. But it's too expensive. Except for Cameron County, all of the valley and really all of the 14 counties upstream, our FIR maps, our flood risk maps, are from the 80s. And our maps are from 82. They're based on studies and surveys done in the 70s, right? They're published in 82, but they're done. And you know how much we've grown since then, right? So they're not really...
So let's backtrack here. So on